So Betsy, would you mind sharing what um, you could share with me that your life circumstances were like before we began working together in the healing meditation, the healing mentoring, excuse me.
Right. Well, actually, I was interested in working with you because I was interested in learning more about parts work. I'm a coach, and I was taking a course on parts work, and I thought, I want to experience this for myself. And so my teacher gave me a list of names of people he would recommend, and yours was one of them.
Right.
And when I went to your website, I saw that you specifically worked with people with autoimmune conditions. And I have MS, which is an autoimmune condition. I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I also noticed that you combined parts work and Qigong as the work that you did. And I'd had some really a great experience with Qigong earlier in my life. And so I thought that was an interesting combination. So when I actually approached you to work with you, it was kind of this general, I want to know more about parts work. But then after reading your website and seeing kind of the work that you did, I thought, well, really two issues we talked about in our conversation before we actually signed up for the coaching, which was a long history of having issues with food and overeating and all of that. And then the second was having MS and being in a wheelchair and no longer able to walk. We talked about those two things. So that was really my circumstances when we started working together.
Could you say how long it took you to take action, one, sign up and work with me?
It was immediate. So I'd actually contacted somebody else on the list. Just, there were all these names, and we had an appointment set up for a discovery call later in the week. And I contacted you, and we had a conversation earlier than the one I had with this second person. And as soon as we started talking, probably 3-4 minutes, I just knew that you were my person. So I think I signed up right there on the call saying I wanted to go forward. So it felt like there were just a lot of serendipitous things. And I felt comfortable with you and wanted to work with you. So that was immediate, almost immediate.
Yeah, I felt the same. It seems like, would you say that the Connect call was a really good way of really solidifying and trusting this was the right person so you could talk to them? And
It absolutely was. Yes, definitely. Because I remember thinking 3 or 4 minutes in, he's my guy. He's the one I'm going to work with. So it was very immediate, and it was just based on we'd only been talking 3 or 4 minutes. So it was more of a, sort of an energetic connection, but also the things that you were saying. So
great.
Combination.
Prior to working with me and this healing mentorship, what was if you could share some of like your own self-doubts or fears that came up before actually making the commitment, or was there any?
Yeah, there were. So when I went to your website, and I was so struck by the fact that when you're talking about autoimmune conditions, you're talking about healing from them. So you're not talking about, and other chronic illnesses too, and you're not talking about managing them better. You're talking about healing from them. And that seemed outrageous to me. It's like, I'd never heard of that before, and it seemed impossible. So I remember in our very first session, you were asking me about my intention for the work together, and I accused you of being very audacious, saying things like healing from autoimmune conditions. And I just didn't believe that was possible. And you said, well, it is. And we took it from there. And so slowly and fast in a way, over the next several weeks, I came to come to a place of believing it is possible, and to heal from serious medical conditions. And my belief that it wasn't really was based on conditioning from everything I'd been told by doctors and had read about and stuff. And just because I'd been told that didn't mean it was true. So.
Yeah. There's so much we've been told that sometimes can be that barrier that prevents us from seeing it in different eyes, right?
Right.
Well, you already spoke to this a little bit, but maybe there might be something else, so I'll ask it anyway. What was it that was attracting you to working with me in this healing mentorship?
Yeah, two things really. Three things, actually. So my teacher had recommended you, so that was the first step. The second was that the things that were being highlighted on your website were things that were really resonated with me. The parts work, coaching that you do, and the Qigong that you do. And then finally, on the discovery call, just feeling a deep connection and comfort and trust and all of that with you. So those three things really.
Thanks, that's helpful. And if you could say, Betsy, what was it that was unexpected that came up during our work together?
Well, something completely unexpected happened. So I had mentioned the overeating to you in our discovery call, but we didn't talk about that after. With our first actual coaching call, we were talking more about the autoimmune condition, the MS, and walking and all of that. But you had given me a Qigong meditation to do every day, and I kind of reported back to you that I was doing it, but I wasn't really noticing any changes or anything happening. And you said that was okay, not to worry about that just keep doing it. And so I did. I kept doing it. And about maybe 4 or 5 weeks in, I told you that I noticed that I was experiencing tremendous hunger, this wanting to overeat. It wasn't hunger, it was just wanting to overeat on things that weren't healthy. And when I told you that, you said, oh, good, that's good. And I was like, what? Wait, what? Really? And so I kept doing the Qigong, and it kept the desire to overeat just kept being there. So the next week I asked you, I told you it's still there. It's been a couple of weeks and it's pretty unpleasant. Could we do some parts work on that? And you said, sure. And so we did. And about maybe 3 or 4 or 5 minutes into the parts work, I just had this experience of this energy leaving my body, and I could hear the sound of this sort of whoosh sound. And I absolutely knew for sure that this overeating part was gone, that this was not going to be a problem going forward. And ever since then, from that very moment, I've only eaten for health and for hunger. So I don't think about food at all, except when I get hungry. And when I get hungry, I go to the refrigerator to see what there is to eat. And I only want to select things that are good for me. And when I eat, I eat them. And when I've had enough, I stop and don't think about food again until I get hungry again. And that is a very different experience than I've had for years and decades. So
Yeah, how long
that was
has that?
completely unexpected. What's that?
I was going to ask how long, you said decades, but how long has that been something you've had to work with?
So I started sort of this, the dieting and weight consciousness back in my 20s, probably. So it's been decades, and sometimes it's better than others, but it's always there. There's never been this freedom from food and eating for only health and hunger ever, and so it's been
Amazing.
so amazing.
And would you say
so grateful.
It sounds like from what you shared, it was the combination of doing the dedicated Qigong meditation daily, and then on top of that, when it really came to the surface, the parts work, energy work that we did together. Was that accurate to say?
I think so. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And the takeaway for me for that is that with the Qigong, I kept doing it because you recommended that I do that, but I wasn't experiencing any I had no awareness that this was helping in any way at all. And it wasn't until we did the parts work until the desire to overeat sort of surfaced in a big way. And then we did the parts work, and all of a sudden, this thing that I've been struggling with in a big way for many, many years suddenly just was gone, just was healed.
Yeah. Amazing.
Amazing.
And if I could just say that is, for a lot of folks that I work with, that's a very common experience where the symptoms or the suffering as we do the Qigong gets heightened, actually feels worse. And a lot of times that brings up a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, uncertainty. And that's why coaching is really important, because we connect as often as we do. So you have that confidence and that knowing that you're doing the right thing, even though it didn't feel so good, it was uncomfortable. But from my standpoint, from my vantage point, what I was aware of is what was happening is that energy was starting to bubble up to the surface where we could work with it more tangibly. And then we obviously had a coaching session where you were able to release so much of that. And amazing.
Right, exactly. And I really did equate that with, if I were to be able to get out of the wheelchair that I'm in now and walk, that would be dramatic and startling for many people. That's obvious. And this is not so obvious. You have to take my reporting about it. You have to trust what I'm saying is true, but it feels equally dramatic. I mean, the healing is the equivalent of getting out of a wheelchair and walking to me. That this is because the overeating problem has been with me much longer than the MS has been. And I've tried so many things to fix it, and nothing helped. And now it's just gone. It's just not an issue anymore.
Yeah, and I get goosebumps when you say that, because I just know so many people, and I'm sure there's many that will hear this that have struggled a lot with eating disorders, overeating, addictions in general, and how it is an invisible thing. Like you said, you don't tangibly see it, but the impact it has on somebody's life. It's can be very
exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So I'm incredibly grateful. If I got nothing else out of the work that we did together, this would be more than enough. But it's just one thing, so it's amazing.
It is. I wanted to ask you, was there any other bigger or takeaways or results that you got that you'd like to share?
Well, a couple. I mean, your belief that I remember saying to you one day, you're saying that when I was talking to you about how audacious I thought it was that you were claiming to be able to help people heal autoimmune conditions. And that just, there's a part of me that wants to believe that. And there's another part of me that says that's absurd. Don't fall for that. But this idea that, so I said to you, so you're saying the sky's the limit? And you said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there is no limit to what's possible. Yeah. And so I think an equally big takeaway for me is this expansion of what's possible, that it is possible with the work that we're doing, the parts work and the Qigong, to be able to get up out of this wheelchair and walk again. And I certainly didn't think that when we started working. That seemed, that seemed completely not possible. And now it feels like inevitable. That's happening. I don't know when, but that's happening. So we'll have to do another video when that happens.
We will. Great. And is there anything more you'd say about what this has done for your life at this time?
Well, I think, again, being open to much greater possibilities than I was when we started, and also being able to connect to this energy that created that whoosh, to know that that's there, that's available. And it's, touched me, impacted me on that particular day, but it continues to impact me. And so that's powerful also. So when I started this, when I began this whole process, it was just, I just kind of want to see what parts work coaching is like. And little did I know that I would be, this overeating problem would be dealt with so successfully, and that I would come to believe it's possible to get out of the wheelchair and walk again. Neither of those things did I come looking for, nor did I expect. So it's been huge.
Really huge. Betsy, it's
really huge.
Yeah, if you were to go back in time and speak to the part of you that was suffering, or to somebody else right now that is suffering, what would you tell them about, this work, the healing mentorship, and any advice you have?
Let's see. Well, I guess what I would say to myself, and then by extension to anybody else that's interested and is considering this, is to listen to yourself. And if it feels right, do it. And that's really what I did. When I went to your website, it looked like, it's interesting. He's doing some things that I'm familiar with and I'm interested in. And then when I met you, it was like, I really like him. And one of the things that I think really helped in terms of growing into this idea that being healed from an autoimmune condition is possible is that knowing you from the sessions that we had, I knew that you were somebody, that did not overpromise and underdeliver, that you do the opposite. So you're not going to say something that seems outrageous like that and then not be able to back that up. So that was, And I've shared what's happened to me with several other friends, and they've all decided to work with you and they're all having amazing results as well. So this isn't just one amazing experience that happened for me, but doesn't happen for anybody else. I know personally it's happening for other people that are working with you.
And curious, lastly, Betsy, how do you see yourself? You've obviously grown and in ways that maybe was unexpected, and you're also a coach. How do you see yourself? What are you envisioning yourself to do going forward after this experience?
Right. Well, I certainly envision the Qigong continuing to be just a part of my daily practice. That's something that I'm going to, will continue to do into the future, of course. And then just be open to what unfolds. I mean, I would love ultimately to work with people who've struggled with eating issues the way I have and help them hopefully get the same kind of result that I got, because it's a very different approach to dealing with that issue than any that I'm aware of. I don't know anybody that has my story about that. So I'd love for other people to have that experience too.
Me as well, Betsy, me as well. Thank you, Betsy. Is there anything else you want to say before we close today?
Just, I've probably said it many times in the conversation, but just how grateful I am. It's just, it's a very different life. And it hasn't been that long. We started working together, I think it was late December. So it hasn't been that long.
No.
So no.
Yeah.
But the transformation is ongoing, but what's happened already has been pretty amazing.
It is amazing. And, I want to thank you, Betsy, for really showing up and doing the work, because that's a big part of it. And you were excellent at coming prepared to each session, really being present and doing the work that really I asked of you. And I only knew it was a matter of time before we get results. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
Happy for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great.